Yeah, that's what we're sinking our teeth into this morning. Wilson Inalego, who is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police, former AIG Zone 9 Umuahia in charge of Abia, Anambra, Enugu, and Imo, and former CP Federal Capital Territory, Ekiti, and Kogi State Command, is our guest this morning. We have to reel out all of that so that you understand the context, especially since new security measures were approved for the South, and the Southeast. So you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
It's a pleasure for me to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, when you heard that yesterday, the new security measures have been approved for the South, and Southeast. I don't know what your thoughts were with regards to the peculiar security challenges that they may face. I know that, increasingly, as the correspondent did point out there, our correspondent did say that, increasingly they're willing to divulge less and less of their tactics. However, what do you think the Nigerians can expect to see with the new security measures approved for those regions?
I think the security chief said a lot, from the IG to NSA and the Chief of Defense.
They said a lot.
They said before. If you listen to them, if you listen carefully, of course the situation in the Southeast is very troubling, and South. Police officer has been attacked. The correctional center in Owerri was attacked. The police headquarters and several police stations and checkpoints, military, customs, police have been attacked. So there is a need to stop this ugly trend. And so you've got to give assurance to the people, especially the officers. They have to be safe. They are being attacked left, right, and center. Therefore, something got to be done. And so they talked about intelligence. And it all goes about partnership. And I'm sure they are going to, like your people in Lagos stated, that security is everybody's business. These guys who attack police stations, police checkpoints, military and all that, they come from our communities. So I think they will be thinking about building partnership so that you can nib in the bud and intercept these planned attacks on officers. So I believe that whatever measures that have been taken, the priority, first of all, is to stop attack on security forces. Because these are people that have pledged and committed to serving our various communities, giving them safety and security, and they are being killed. They are the first responders. Even when you have domestic problem, they are the first you call. Even medical, now they are being attacked. And so this has got to stop. And I believe none of us here is privy to the discussion, but I imagine a lot of intelligence must have come from that area. And so measures will be adopted to deal with these specific issues. And like I said, security is everybody's business, and it's about partnership. It's about collaboration. It's about getting the communities to support the security forces to be able to stop this attack so that we can have assurance. Because people will say, oh, if the police headquarters in Owerri can be attacked, then I'm not safe in my home. So there is a need to give hope and confidence to the populace. So when you have security meeting the type that it doesn't just take place in a vacuum. It takes place based on certain assessment, and this threat assessment must have been brought, and measures have been approved. There are no more security procedures, but it's very urgent, and something's got to be done.
They might not have said much yesterday. Well, you say they said much.
Yeah.
But to journalists, they use a lot of words to say as little as could be said, as little as possible. Yes, the NSA talked about lifting people out of poverty and the drivers for violence. He mentioned how they intend to, I think they want to get a handle on the drug problem. It's it's a big issue. But, you know, even though he didn't quite say it, unemployment and poverty are drivers for conflict.
That's true.
Nonetheless, I think even though he mentioned things around it, they didn't quite say what it was that they were going to say. But we heard from the Minister of Information yesterday, who said that, you know, attack on security personnel is a declaration of war on the state. So, and that such an attack will be met with overwhelming force. I don't know if you heard that statement yesterday. Does it give us a very clear idea as to how, you know, or what we can expect to see in the South and the Southeast, particularly because these are the areas where we have seen direct assault on security personnel, some of them losing their lives in the process?
Yeah, I don't think any government will allow her security forces to be killed without adequate response, right from Akwa Ibom to Rivers to Abia, Imo, Anambra, Ebonyi, and the rest of them. Several officers served in Rivers, in Akwa Ibom, and so I believe there has to be a robust response, and that this cannot continue. So the shape it will take is clear. First of all, at the tactical level, the officers got to defend themselves. They've got to be very aware of their environment. And then you've got to get intelligence and see where these plans are being hatched. You're going to attack those places. You are going to get to those places. You'll stop this impunity. So when I don't think people should be reading different meaning. It's just that where are the people planning this? They are going to aggressively seek intelligence about where they are. They are going to seek intelligence about these individuals. Who are their sponsors? That's what I think will happen. They are going to look at what are the lessons learned so far in the attacks on these security forces, and how do you stop it? And it involves measures. They are going to go to different places. You see, when you talk drug, that is why the issue of drug comes in. Where do they assemble? What is that propelling force? What is that motivation? How do you take it out? And so it is, and then basically it's an advice to all law-abiding citizens to cooperate and collaborate with the government and security agencies, that we cannot allow this to happen. And that is why I'm sure you get to another point. I don't want to go ahead of you. And that is why one of the things I like to say, I don't know if it is premature, is the meeting that took place yesterday. I don't know if I can comment before we get there.
By all means.
Yes. I just want to say something. I think one of the resolutions or the communique should have been a strong condemnation of attack on security forces in the South, Southeast, and any other place for that matter. I imagine, because these are officers who are working to keep our communities safe, but the communique was silent on that. And because when this number of governors come to meet, this is a serious issue that I think, not just the federal government addressing it, but the state governors saying, look, we are not going to allow those who defend our communities, those who prevent crime in our communities, those who prevent fear of crime in our communities, to be discouraged, to be killed. That's, I think, should have happened. I'm sorry, you have not. I'm sure you were going to ask something around that.
By all means, I mean, there's something to be sorry about.
Yeah, but this is what I think, because these are officers who are traumatized. Who you are going to work, you don't know where you are going to go home. You are the first responders in various incidents, whether medical, whether social, whether whatever. And the number of officers killed is significant enough to draw the attention of their excellencies that in their meeting, they've got to comment on it, and they've got to condemn it in very strong terms.
Yeah, but, you know,
So
there were questions as to whether or not they condemned the killing of Nigerians in general.
Yeah.
There was no comment on that, was there?
Yeah. I just want to isolate.
So, because indeed, if there was a condemnation of killings at all, and then security agencies were left out, or security agents were left out, then maybe there could, I mean, I'm just saying.
But come to think of it.
Yes.
Come to think of it.
Indeed,
there should be condemnation of killing,
yes,
and in particular of security agencies. Those who are committed to serving our communities, those who are committed to keeping our communities safe, those who are in government houses doing very good job. Yes, there are challenges here and there, but I think for such an important meeting, I think a statement, one line.
Well, I mean, we will certainly be taking that on in the course of the program, and asking why that was left out. I mean, if it was an omission or it was something that they didn't consider important enough. You know, it's a valid question. As to whether or not they deliberately left that out or not.
So the security measures you're talking about.
Yes.
I mean, even a baby should know that you're killing. You know,
but the issue is very delicate, in the sense that even though they didn't say much, the Chief of Defense Staff said that these are going to be intelligence-driven operations.
Yes.
In other words, it's something that we intend to keep under wraps as much as possible, but they will be systematic in terms of how they go about this, and they'll be strategic, so to speak. I mean, that's what I could glean from that.
That's why I say he said a lot.
From that one-liner. But there have been complaints before now, because we mustn't forget that the Southeast in particular is particularly delicate. The South-South to a large extent has been come see, come sa. Today it's calm, tomorrow it's agitated, but largely it's not been as agitated as it's been in the past. Whatever it is that the governors and the federal government or whoever it is that is doing some work there, it will seem that they've been able to keep things calm to a large extent. But the Southeast has been very delicate, because it's not just been the attacks on security personnel. There's also been calls for secession in the Southeast. The calls for secession have been the loudest there. And we have also seen militia now come up as a result of that, asking for secession. And don't forget that before now, politically, the Southeast has always said that it's been marginalized. They have talked about how the people have been largely left out of government. And it would seem that every time that there have been attempts at raising this politically or otherwise through the secessionist groups, the force of the federal government has been overwhelming in dealing with whatever threats they perceive in the Southeast. So there has been that call, or there's been that talk about how the other security challenges in the country have not been visited with as much force as what they have seen in the Southeast. So do you think that this presents a peculiar challenge for handling the security situation in the Southeast of the country?
First of all, in dealing with the issues of security in the Southeast and South-South, I don't think they are going to be careless. Everything, when you talk about intelligence, that means you are going to have specific targets. People who really have posed the greatest threat, those who plan and are attacking the security forces. Then, yes, their excellencies address them in their communique, if you listen to them. The pathway to violence is grievance, grudge. If you read carefully the communique issued, the excellencies address those issues of fairness, issues of justice. These are issues that I think the federal government would have taken note, because
would they have taken note, considering the fact that these meetings were happening simultaneously?
Yeah, no. Of course, they are all in the public domain. And when I say they take note, these are issues they were only aired collectively by the southern governors yesterday. But these are issues that we have talked about: justice, fairness. I think they listed about 4 of them in that communique. And once these are issues that must be taken on board, because the pathway to violence is somebody has a grievance. Yeah, I will not accept. And you take it lightly, it can flare up into violence. Therefore, my advice to the appropriate authority is to sit down with the people who are raging this agitation and find ways. But my concern is about the attack on officers. And I tell you one thing, the issue of job is a very important issue because it directly leads to poverty. Look, if you don't have a job, no means of livelihood, I'm not talking of just white-collar jobs, but creating that enabling environment in the various sectors of the economy, particularly in agriculture, like the ban on open grazing, has provided an opportunity for engaging youths in producing hay, for example. If you go to Jos, the Wamco, they have a lot of cattle. They don't go open and go everywhere and graze, but they produce very healthy cattle. So it's quite good. And from there, they have the skills to give to farmers. And so I am thinking that when you ban, you produce an opportunity. That means you produce hay cheap, grow them, because the weather in the south supports growing grasses that you can use. So the situation is very desperate about jobs. When they say an idle mind is devil's workshop, that's what we are seeing at play. So we've got to create opportunities for people to be meaningfully engaged. Otherwise, the law enforcement action alone is not. It's impossible for law enforcement action alone to stop insecurity. Don't forget.
Which is going to come first? Because the measures to tackle unemployment usually take a while to yield fruit.
Yes.
The feelings of alienation are currently immediate and real.
Yes.
The feelings of insecurity are also immediate and real.
Yes.
The attack on security personnel have happened for quite a while, and it's something that the federal government ought to respond to as well. How do you think that the federal government will tackle these immediate issues without alienating further the people who already feel aggrieved?
You see, one of the things you ask for in leadership, when you find yourself in a situation, some of these things could be perception. Therefore, I would even expect that you commission to give you a factual or empirical report. These are the things that are in the public domain. There is a perception of injustice, a perception of unfairness. It doesn't take too much, I think, to look at these issues. Do they really exist? And if they do, how can they be addressed that will assuage the anger, bitterness of the people that they don't take to violence to express their views? So I would think that when you find yourself, you could be, in your opinion, you could be doing very well. But to further create an environment that everybody, these people are saying, these governors have met, they have, if you read it, that's what they say, they try to color it, but essentially that's what they are saying, trying to re-echo what I think their people are saying. Therefore, the appropriate authority should look at, let's have a perception survey, and that will give them an opportunity to call the various leaders about use and even address them I say, well, these are the things you have said. This is what we have done. And address the people truthfully and honestly.
Should that happen before any security measures, any further security measures are taken?
Well, this can happen simultaneously because when I'm talking of a perception survey, that cannot be done immediately. But then, you are killing innocent people. That has to stop. You are not going to wait for you to conduct perception survey to address. But I think the appropriate authority is taking notes, and they have the various experts that are analyzing these issues to really address them. But that cannot stop the security measures going up, because people have to go about their normal lawful business. People have to go to market. People have to travel some distances and not being afraid of being kidnapped. The police officers have to do their work and give assurance to the people. But it is also very urgent that the perception of people, what people are saying, it's good to talk to those issues and look at the people and say, look, what you are saying, this is what you've said, but this is the reality, this is the actual. And then when you begin to address this, might be people, the mindsets begin to change, because when people begin to have, even if you say good morning to them, they might think, they will still look at the sun that, are you sure it is morning? That's the situation that we find ourselves. So there has to be a lot of communication by the National Orientation Agency, the Ministry of Defense, and various government departments, their security agencies, different institutions, organizations, trying to address, even labor, civil society organizations. These are people to come and, invite them, talk to them, and put them so that among their membership, they are able to communicate the correct thing. Communication and connection solve a lot of issues. You try to connect with the people, empathize with the people, and then they begin to see it from your own perspective. I think that's very critical. But as a police officer that I always feel I am, I always want to talk about law enforcement. So you've taken me a little bit off my area of the usual place I like to talk, but I always want to talk about law enforcement.
Yeah, so let's talk about law enforcement.
Yes.
Why do you think that the South, and Southeast have been singled out for these new operations? I ask this because, we've also seen other parts of the country experience there's security challenges. Just yesterday, in a local government in Benue, and Benue, the governor of Benue State has been calling out for help for some time now, and we understand the peculiar issues in Benue State, so to speak. In Gwe West, about 12 councils, we understand, have been sacked, by suspected herdsmen, and I think just about 3 of them or so are left in Gwe West. Some people were also killed, buried in shallow graves. That was also revealed, I think, from the weekend through the week. That was also revealed. So these killings have gone on for quite a while now. Why do you think that the focus is more in the South and Southeast of the country?
Right now, a major operation is ongoing in the Northeast against Boko Haram insurgents. Only last night, some of them attempted to attack Maiduguri. They were repelled. We have a massive deployment in the Northeast. And in the Northwest, the military and police are continually engaged, fighting bandits and kidnappers. It's happening every day. It's happening in Niger State. It's happening in Katsina. It's happening in Zamfara. So major operations are taking place there. And then in Benue, there is Operation Whirlpool or something. Military, which time I travel to Benue, I see military. Major operations are also ongoing. And a lot of, I think 2 or 3 days ago, one area was bombed where some bandits or whatever you call them were attacked. So I don't think this operation is peculiar to the Southeast because these operations are ongoing in various parts of the country. So it's not only in the Southeast. I don't want them to go with that impression. But what is happening in the Southeast was discussed, and because the other operations are ongoing, so they are not having new operations there. Maybe they've not had that kind of major coalition of forces in the South and Southeast.
Well, let's take a break now. We'll come back and continue this conversation. Please stay with us. It's our closing moments with our guest, Mr. Enanigu, in our studios here in Abuja. Just as we wrap up now, just asking you, what are your thoughts, though, on the meeting of the governors of the South, beg your pardon, of southern states yesterday?
I think it's a good thing they came together to discuss issues of urgent national importance with focus on security. But like I earlier said...
Yeah, you wanted them to condemn the killings on security agents.
I think one of the things they should have done is condemn the killing of security agencies. That I think should have happened. That will create assurance in the mind of the security agencies that, yes, their plight is also of concern to their excellencies. That's one. Two, the situation we are is desperate. There are no jobs. And there's a lot of poverty. One of the communique should have been measures taken to address issues of poverty and insecurity in their respective states collectively. I know they are doing a lot. They are doing a lot. So that's also important. We've got to look for ways of creating jobs.
But they might have, because there's also this part that talks about the chokehold in Papa Wharf here. I think this is number 8. Now, resolved to foster cooperation among southern states and the nation at large. They expressed the concern, I think it's number 9, expressed concern on the continued gridlock on the Oshodi-Apapa Expressway and the chokehold it has exerted on the nation's economy, being the sole outlet from Apapa Wharf. The meeting therefore recommended the activation and establishment of ports in other states of the Federation to create new jobs and promote socio-economic activities in the country.
But if I were, I'm looking at a situation like this. Open grazing is banned. That's a lot comes out of banning open grazing. It means those who are rearing their cattle, they need to get foliage for their animals. So
you're seeing even more opportunities.
Yeah, more opportunities. I'm looking at.
Do you have any fear? I mean, the fact that some people have also said, oh, they're demanding this is, even though they didn't say that, and that is they are very, very clear. They affirmed that the peoples of southern Nigeria remain committed to the unity of Nigeria on the basis of justice, fairness, equity, and oneness and peaceful coexistence. You know, so I mean, they did say that unity is also at the forefront of what it is they're discussing, but there have been fears that why the South, after all, the security situation
I made allusion to that.
It's not peculiar to the southern governors.
Yes.
Do you think that there's any why the affiliation amongst the southern governors? You have any?
Sorry, come in again.
Why the meeting between southern governors? Do you think you could have added some northern governors, especially since the concern is about security?
No. You see, when the issues of security are local, they start from our communities. Now the southern governors have met. They've issued a communique.
The northern governors too can meet.
So they will have a meeting point where they will all come together because the challenges are quite similar. Do you understand? So, but the point I am making is, every governance at every level, right from the local government to the state and federal, must understand that you've got to give hope to the youths. And you give this hope by creating jobs. Yes, Apapa gridlock is there, but I'm talking of the individual places. And I said banning open grazing creates enormous opportunities. So, and this should not be issue of politics. This should be handled truthfully, honestly, pragmatically. That, I think, because once you begin to take the youths, graduates, others out of the streets, you are going to have less challenge. That's what I think. And I also, that there were some governors who, during the NSAS and all that, did issue of security quite well, even though they may not have condemned it. And I'm sorry, but Rivers State, I read in the papers, they compensated families of officers who were killed, and I think also Lagos. That's commendable. But I'm not saying they've not done anything individually, but at such a significant meeting, that statement would have created a kind of reassurance and would have also added to the measures that have been taken. But what I want to say, it is important that misconceptions are promptly corrected so that people don't go with the notion that something like this is happening. You've got to create reassurance, create hope that we are part of the whole political and socio-political arrangement. That's also very important, and that's why I talked about communication and connection. Again, demonstrating empathy. I think all this within a few weeks, I believe, when there are truthfulness to each other, these things are going to be addressed. I think so.
Well, we have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Mr. Wilson Inaligo is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police, former AIG Zone 9 Umuahia, in charge of Abia, Anambra, Enugu, and Imo states. We have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
A pleasure is mine.
Well, that's it for the segment. Sunrise Daily is going to continue in a moment. We'll be asking, perhaps very shortly, were security agents deliberately left out of that communique issued by Southern governors yesterday? Just one of the things that perhaps will be posing very soon. Find out who our next guest is shortly. Please stay with us.